Hello guys, welcome to the first session of this Big Data Hadoop course. I'm Jayant Moite and I would be your trainer for this entire course. My profile and the modules of this course are already shared on the website, so you can just have a look at it and refresh yourself with all the idea that we are going to cover in this course. Getting on with this course, let's talk first something about big data. Let's talk and understand what big data is. Whenever I heard about big data in the early times or even today when I talk with people regarding big data, the first question that I ask them is, what is big data? And people see that, dude, big data is a technology or big data is some software solution or big data is some framework or something like that. But typically is it really some hardware, software, framework, platform or anything like this? No, from all this years of experience into big data, what I've learned is big data is nothing but just a problem related to data, which is big enough to handle, which was so huge that the distributed system architectures that we had, they surrendered and said that we cannot work anymore with this. But you know what? Oh, this is the first session, and let's not directly get into all this technical terms about big data and stuff. Let's talk about something else. My profile and stuff is already shared, as I said, on the website, but I'd like to tell you something about my personal experience or something about me as a person. From the childhood, as a kid, I was always proud of my mom. Not only because she's my mom, but because I was amazed by the way she handles the household. I was amazed by the way she works in the house and manages all the stuff. At the start of every month, my mom used to sit and prepare a list of all the items that she needs to buy. So she would used to make a list like, uh, I'll be needing 5 kg of rice, 5 kg of wheat flour, 2 kg of potatoes, 2 kg of onions, and blah, 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 blah stuff, so on and so forth. I was always amazed and also confused that how does she come to know that, okay, I would be needing this kind of stuff in this quantity for the entire month? Because once she goes into the supermarket at the start of the month and gets all the stuff, after that, I have never seen her actually go for shopping. So she actually goes once, gets all the stuff, and never again I saw her getting any of the stuff for the household. Everything was always ample with her. So one fine morning, I decided to go and ask her that how she exactly manages all this. So I said, hey mom, tell me, how do you manage this? So she said, you know what, I have the past experience of over years and I know how much and what things you guys eat. And based on that, I can easily make out that what I'm going to need for the entire month. So I said, okay, let's talk on something and tell me what will happen if one relative of ours comes and decides to stay with us. What would be your position in that case? She said, one relative, that's really simple. I'll just go to the market and buy some extra stuff and not necessarily go to the market also because I always buy ample stuff. So whatever I've brought would be really sufficient to handle that guest also. So I said, okay, mom, now tell me what happens if we have some old relatives at our native place and now they have become very subtle and they cannot work on their own or take care of themselves, and even they don't have any earning source or anything like that, so their life is becoming really miserable, and they know that you're a very hospitable person, your hospitality is great, you're a good cook and all this stuff. So what happens, mom, is some of our relatives come to our place and they decide to stay with us forever. So now what would be your position or what would you do? She took a big halt and after thinking for a while, she said, you know what, it's okay. Those are old people and it's my responsibility to take care of them. So I'll show some courtesy and I'll somehow manage it. So she said that I'll go to the supermarket and this time I'll buy double or triple the quantity what I used to buy, and maybe I'll lessen the expenditure somewhere else. Maybe I'll not go for the shopping, I'll not buy clothes, or maybe you guys can reduce some spendings on the gadgets and stuff that you get. and somehow we all as a family together will work out to the solution and will somehow manage economically. I said, okay, economically that's good, but what about effort wise? How are you going to cook food for so many people? Like, we already are a family of four, one more person comes in, starts staying with us, and then some people more, like say five, six or more than that, even they have come and now they are staying together. So how will you manage stuff? So she said, it's really easy. What I'll do is I won't prepare chapati every now and then. I'll just prepare rice and dal, and these guys will eat rice and dal. When I'm free or I'm good in mood, on those days I'll prepare some special food. And that should be very good enough for those days, and even those guys will understand that okay, there's so many people staying in here, so this is good stuff that I can give them. I said, okay, good, really good, mom. But you know what? Now what happens is these people are really happy with the way you're treating them, and so they inform more of our relatives. And now what happens is more of our relatives and their friends have decided and they have landed in our house and they are now going to stay with us. Now let me tell you something about these people who are now coming. These guests are of different age groups. These guests are of different caste. Their food habits are different. The females, they want to eat rice and dal. The men, they prefer chapati or roti and any vegetable. The kids, they prefer fast food. And these kids have a very distinct behavior, or you can say weird behavior. If they have a good dream last night, suppose if Deepika Padukone comes in their dreams last night, so the next day they will kind of eat 6 times a day. But on the other hand, if they get a nightmare, then the next day they will like eat only one time. And the fact is that whenever they are hungry and want something to eat, they'll have to prepare hot food. Okay, and by this time when I was giving all the queries to my mom, I didn't actually realize that she was getting angry and her face was becoming red and she was looking very similar to this woman in the picture. And you know what? I was really scared and I finally concluded my stuff and said, hey, tell me now, what would be your position like? So, her face was already angry, and with a similar anger voice, she said, dude, what I'll do is I'll wait in the evening on the doorsteps for your father to come. As soon as he comes in, I'll tell him that let's run away, let's close the doors of this house, let these guys stay and let them do whatever they want. I cannot tolerate this and I'll be running out from here. I said, whoa, a capable woman who has been handling all the household stuff for more than 30 years, now she's talking about running away. So does this really mean that she is not capable enough? Or does this mean, or does this prove that some things happened which she never imagined of, or she was not prepared for that, or some things beyond her imagination, beyond her bad dreams, beyond her nightmares, compelled her to run away from the situation? So, one question of mine got solved and then another question came in and I'm still carrying on with this question. Okay, but that's okay. That's all about myself. So let's forget it. Let's forget it. Let's talk about something else. Another amazing thing that we have, or another amazing thing that I have always thought about is you have two different stores if you look at the world today. One is the store that was there since before, even before internet came in, and we had shops, and now we have something called as online store. So now we have two different types of stores. One is the offline store, which was there since even before the advent of internet, and we have our an online store which came in after the advent of internet. So you know what? If we try to compare these two stores, or let's try to compare these two stores in terms of what data they store or what data they were using or collecting, and let's try to see the difference. So what we'll do is we'll just have a small comparison between these two shops. If you have a look at the offline store, then this is the data that these guys were collecting. So they had the product information, information about the vendors, some invoice related information. Then again, when it comes to product sizes and price list, look, we don't actually have to design a schema. So whatever we think can be treated as a table. So I really don't want to get into this that, okay, sizes and price list can be a part of product. So why are we having this as a separate table? It's okay, man. We don't actually have to design a schema. So it's okay. We can have our imagination running in its own way. Okay, so these guys would be storing the customer information also, some inventory warehouse information also, some information related to the sales and all stuff, and some information related to their staff also, right? Good amount of information. Now let's talk about our online store like Amazon or Flipkart or Snapdeal. What is that these guys would be storing? If I visualize a Amazon page, or if I'm thinking about buying something from Amazon, what are the different stuff that I'll think that these guys may be storing? So these guys typically store or use all this information. They have the product, vendors, sizes, price list, customers, inventory, staff, sales, warehouse, etc., etc., etc. But I suppose that apart from this, these guys also store some more useful information related to these stuff. So I have a feature on Amazon or any other e-commerce site, track your order. They have given me options to do the payments either using a credit card or a debit card or net banking or cash on delivery or anything. So the payment gateway information also is there, right? Then secondly, you know what drives me, really fascinating when I go to an online store is the fact that if I'm going there to buy a Apple iPhone, finally I end up buying an Apple iPhone as well as an Apple iPod, some cover for the iPod as well as the cover for iPhone, and then actually the carving for me to buy MacBook or MacBook Pro increases. Why this happens? This happens because as soon as I go to buy something there, immediately they show something called as recommendations at the bottom. And these recommendations are really so exciting that they actually, drive a carving in you to buy more stuff. A recent example, I went in there to buy FIFA 2015, and as I was buying FIFA 2015, the game CD, immediately at the bottom I got the recommendations for WoW and other games, and instead of buying one game, I actually ended up buying 3 games. So these recommendations do play a very major role in this online business, and these guys store this information also. Then these guys also store some user reviews, feedbacks, ratings. Then they have lots of advertisements posted on their websites. They have their website's advertisement posted on somebody else's website, and a lot of information about this is collected. So these guys might be storing or utilizing this information also. Apart from this, these e-commerce sites have pages on the social networking sites like your Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. Okay, wherein we go and we tweet something about the website or post something or share some existing posts and many stuff like that. So now if we try to compare both the data that was produced offline and that is produced online, then what we can easily differentiate is when it comes to offline data that was generated, it was all text and numbers. It was only pure text and numbers. But if you have a look at the data that is generated online, then it is not only data, it's not only text, it's not only numbers, but apart from this, it's also images. If you talk about advertisements, let's talk about advertisement. What can an advertisement contain? It can contain images, it can contain banners, it can contain video, it can contain audio, it can contain any sort of information or any sort of data that you can ever imagine. If you talk about the social media content, what it may contain? Again, it may contain all this blah blah stuff like image, video, audio, everything. But apart from this, what it will also contain is the counters. Like, the Twitter has a retweet counter, then Facebook has a like counter, page hits, or the share counter, or the post counter, and many other counters like this. Now, apart from this, if you have a look at the data like track your order or payment gateway or again the social media content, so does Amazon actually store the Facebook page in his own database server? Or does Flipkart actually store the payment gateway information? Or when you actually save your credentials of credit, you save your credit card information on the Amazon site, is it actually getting stored inside the database server of Amazon? No, I don't feel so, because why would they store it? So the payment gateway people, they actually store all this information in their database servers. Similarly, if you have a track your order scheme, then this facility is not provided by Amazon directly, but this facility is provided by the courier service. So all the information about your order or your package is residing in the database of those guys. But still, these guys are actually peeping into it and giving that information to us. So on a whole, the data has not only changed in quantity, but it has also changed in variety. So there are different formats of data, different data structures that have evolved in these years after the advent of internet. But apart from this, the data has drastically changed to an extent where I am actually peeping in somebody else's database to derive some information. If you again try and compare this information or just have a look at this information which is generated online, then imagine the amount of information that is getting generated. If you talk about the social media content or the advertisements alone, then imagine how much data a Facebook or Amazon site would be generating in a day. So that's really huge. So if we try to peep in, this exactly is big data. I can say that yes, this exactly is big data, because it's hell lot of data inside it. But you know what? Forget about big data. Let's think why these guys are maintaining or creating this or storing this information or data. So if you talk about recommendations, I already said that recommendations do play a major role in all this stuff. But how this can be a big data? If two people buy something, I can immediately, and if two people buy iPhone as well as Apple iPad, then I can easily give you a recommendation when you go to buy Apple iPhone that okay, people who brought this also brought this. But is this really true? Can I judge this that if you buy an Apple iPod, then you'll surely buy a Apple iPad also from just 2 or 3 references? Imagine I have a e-commerce site of my own and somebody has come to my website and is searching for poison. So can I immediately give him a recommendation that, hey dude, if you're buying poison, you know what, a better way to commit suicide, a better alternative to commit suicide is buy a rope or buy a sleeping pill, and that is, a sweet sleeping pill, and this will help you die very nicely and comfortably. Can I give him a recommendation? The next day he'll sue me. But what if I have seen this for years that 95% people who actually came in and brought poison from my side, the next day I saw their names in the tributaries column in the newspaper that these guys have committed suicide. So if I have been observing these trends for over years, then surely I can give a recommendation to this man who is searching for poison on my website that you can go and buy a rope instead of buying a poison. So the point I'm trying to convey is that if you look at any of these information like user reviews, recommendations, or any other information, then this information doesn't come in one day. This information comes over research for years of data or years of interaction with the users. So if you talk about years of interaction with the users, then again this is a huge amount of data. Now, what are we exactly doing with all this data? First thing, we are using this data so that we can actually influence the behavior of a customer in any way. Because if you're giving some fancy features like track your order or different modes of payment from your website, or you're giving all this recommendations and stuff, then you actually are driving people to come onto your website and have business with you so that you earn profit. So only for earning profit, I am managing this huge amount of data, plus I'm peeping in somebody else's database for my own profit. So this is the drastic change that this entire internet world has brought in. Okay, so now let's forget about this. Now again, let's forget about this. Again, this is going a lengthy discussion. So now let's talk about something else. Now let's talk about, hey, Chris Gayle. Recent World Cup, he scored the first double century in cricket World Cup history. And as the statistics show that he scored 215 runs and just 147 balls, and he hit 10 fours and 16 sixes. So this man is really giant. But you know what? You know what? In the beginning of the day, nobody thought that he would actually go there and score 200 runs. Nobody was actually aware that he would go and score 200 runs. But as soon as this happened, what we did? We immediately went to all the social networking sites and started posting, tweeting, commenting, sharing about him, and talking all blah blah stuff about him on the internet and sharing this with our friends. So if you talk about if you talk about Facebook, then did the Facebook manager know in the morning that this kind of a thing is going to happen? No, right? He cannot be aware, or he cannot assume that this will happen. But can I say that if the graph of the number of users active on Facebook in a day is something similar to like this, can I say that in such situations where Chris Gayle scores a double century or something like this happens, the graph suddenly goes to like this? The graph suddenly increases to like this? Again, I'm basically from Mumbai, and we have been used to this kind of a situations. Always, every now and then, every day, we see bomb blast or terrorist attack or some bad thing happening near our surroundings with somebody or in some places. And we as a whole Mumbai, we are somehow connected to each other. So entire Mumbai, we stay like a family. So if something like this happens, if some terrorist attack or something bad, some tragedy happens in Mumbai, then at least on that particular day, the entire city is mourning. So nobody actually has the courage. There are some foolish people who actually do that. They go there and on the same day they type, "Hey, rest in peace," or they give bad words to who did that. But typically, most of the people don't have the courage on the same day. They don't have the ability to think on the same day that let's go and post something on the social media sites. So can I say that if some situation like this happens for at least that particular area, the graph of the number of active users on Facebook may suddenly dip, and I can see something like this. So if you have a look at this juncture, this spike, and if you have a look at this spike, but nowhere at the start of the day was Facebook manager active, Facebook manager aware that Gale might score a 200 and this hype will get, or some bomb blast or something will happen in Mumbai and this will happen, right? Again, let's forget about it. Now let's talk about something else. The Big Billion Day, the greatest sale ever, 6th October 2014. Oh man, I still become happy when I remember about that day. It was starting at 8 o'clock, and I actually sat from 6 o'clock to select the items that I need to buy, and I did do a plenty of shopping on that day. So what happened on this day? 6th of October, Flipkart had organized a big sale, the biggest sale ever, and people from all parts of the country, people from all over the world, what they did was, they did a lot of shopping on this particular website. So actually 1.2 million 1.2 million people did shopping from Flipkart on the same day. So 1.2 million people shopping from a single store, that is your Flipkart, on a single day was possible because of this internet. 1.2 billion people, a huge number, successfully did shopping from Flipkart on this particular day, which is the 6th of October. Now, you know what? Forget about it and let's try to sum all this up together and see what point exactly I was trying to convey from these different things. So if you talk about this data, the different formats of data, if you talk about the graph structure, or if you talk about the 1.2 billion people actually going on to the a single store and buying stuff. So all this stuff was not imaginable, or nobody predicted this before the advent of internet. This kind of scenario would haven't been possible if internet wouldn't have been there. And this kind of a scenario has increased the quantity of data produced by a huge margin, right? And when the distributed systems were actually developed, when the data warehouses were actually developed, nobody knew that internet is going to come up or internet is going to get developed and some situation like this is going to happen. So they did not design the data warehouse with an intent of this, because nobody ever imagined that this may ever happen. Nobody ever imagined that 1.2 billion people would actually shop on the same day from the same store. So once this happened, what happened was lot of data started getting accumulated in your data warehouses and all the systems that manage data, and finally these guys felt it really very difficult to handle this and they gave up. Finally they came into the same situation where my mom, the capable woman who has served her family for over years, came in when large number of guests came to her house. Similar situation these data warehouses and database systems came into, and they said, hey dude, we cannot work anymore. And when they were queried that why you can't work anymore, then what they said was that okay, now we have big problem, and this big problem is called as big data. Because it's already data, so the word data, and it's really very huge, that's why big data. But now let's try to understand that from all these three examples, what exactly have we concluded? So we have concluded the three properties of big data, which is variety, volume, and velocity. So these are the three important characteristics or three important properties of big data, which actually define a data as big data. Apart from this, there are four more properties of big data that we would be covering in the full-fledged course, Big Data Analytics with Hadoop. As far as the limitations of this course, we will be talking about only these three, restricting ourselves to only these three characteristics of big data. Okay guys, so I guess this is the time to conclude this session today. I hope it was the first session. It was a lot of understanding and a lot of information for you guys. The next session we'll start up, we'll have a look at the facts and figures of big data, and we'll get into some more concepts about big data. We'll get big on big data and see what were the problems with the typical distributed systems that we felt the need of getting some new systems. Thanks a lot. See you in the next session. Thank you.